All right, welcome to the February Torus community meeting. I'm going to start off with our working product vision, which is we're all working to transform higher education through the science of learning. I always like to start off with that, so we are kind of centered on what our common goal is. So looking at our agenda, I have a little bit of a departure from what I said even yesterday the agenda was, and I think this is the danger of having a Torus community meeting the same week that I started off on vacation. And I was also on vacation part of last week, so I've been a little bit like dazed and confused this week. So I was going to do a feature demo that had been requested. Several folks had asked for it the last time I did a feature demo when I was doing practice pages, the authoring, instructor, and student view. And the request for this time was going into page types. Specifically, these are practice page types: foundation, deliberate practice, and exploration. So I was all ready to do this, and as I was kind of going through practicing my demo this very morning, then I realized that there is a bug in how the pages are displayed in like the practice and the exploration tabs in the student view. And I had been aware of this bug, but I didn't quite put together until this morning that it was actually going to force me to kind of do a workaround for my demo. And I record these demos for kind of posterity. I put them on the website. So I want to make sure that I'm doing a demo that reflects how people should be doing this as they go through and they interact with Torus. And I don't want to have something that's kind of temporary interfering with how that goes down. So what I'm going to do instead, I mean, the bug I'm referring to has actually already been fixed for version 30, which is being released on April 7th. We go into code freeze for version 30 on March 3rd. And our next Torus community meeting is on March 7th. So it's the same week that we're going into code freeze for version 30. Next month's meeting is when I am going to be doing my release demo of version 30 and kind of going through and showing you what we built and what it actually looks like, what's going to be going into production on April 7th. So as part of that same meeting, because I'll be going through in our staging environment doing that demo, then I can do this feature demo as well. So I apologize for the last minute change, but on a positive note, this is going to be a shorter meeting than we expected, and we'll get you out of here early. All right, so even though I'm not doing a feature demo now, and I know what feature demo I'm doing next time, I still welcome requests for feature demos. I have some ideas here. I think these are largely based on things that people have mentioned in the past might be interesting, though you can suggest anything you want. The way that I think, I've tried a couple different things, and I think the way that this works best is if you just put your suggestions for a future feature demo into the chat of this meeting. You can suggest more than one thing. If somebody else suggests something and you think it's a good idea, it would be great if you chime in and say, yeah, I'd love to see that too. Then we can kind of get a sense of what people want to see the most. And again, it can be anything that you want me to demo about Torus. I just have some ideas here to kind of prime the pump, but you're not restricted to what I put here. And I can always count on Caitlin to have suggestions. Thank you. So this is just a reminder at any point during this. Yeah. Yeah. Great. So yeah, at any point during this meeting, if you come up with an idea as I'm talking through things, just pop it into the chat. Thanks. Okay. So we're going to talk about the 2025 roadmap and also kind of what our strategy is. Since this is the first Torus community meeting I'm doing in 2025, I just want to talk about what we're kind of hoping is going to happen this calendar year in Torus. So I'm going to start off looking on this part of the OLI website where I mentioned the strategy for 2025, which I actually just updated this week. Up until recently, it still said 2024. which is classy when we're in February. So I updated that. I've got a QR code here if you want to go along with me. I also am going to be talking about our latest roadmap snapshot that I just put up this week. So here's the link and the QR code for that. But I'm actually not going to click these links because I do like to show you how you can just navigate to this information on your own. So I'm just going to pop over here to Google Chrome, type in Open Learning Initiative. The first site that comes up is oli.cnu.edu. That is our website. And if I go on here, then I go under Torus, I'm going to be going to Torus Project. This is the same page I had linked for the strategy. And if I scroll down to like my roadmap section, here is always going to be the latest roadmap snapshot. So that is the second link I had there. I'm going to be going to that in a moment. But what I want to talk about for the moment right now is what is our 2025 strategy? And there are 4 points here. I want to make it clear that these are not necessarily in like a priority order. These are just our 4 key focuses in terms of Torus development for 2025. So point 1, building out data warehousing capabilities to supercharge our data processing and analysis. This, of course, is a huge part of how we frame our value proposition for Torus. We want to be using the science of learning. We want you to be gathering data about your students and using that. Well, not about your students. That sounds kind of creepy in a surveillance way. We want to be gathering data about how your students are interacting with the curriculum and how they're learning, and so that you can use that to make a better learning experience. So of course, the ability to gather and analyze data is really key to that. And those of you who have been around for a bit know we've been having some growing pains recently about how we handle data in Torus. And starting last year, our director of engineering, Darren, has been working on data warehousing capabilities to really allow our data processing and data analysis capabilities to scale and to be robust. So he had started working on that last year. We did get in version 29 some behind the scenes improvements. So nothing that is apparent as a change in the user interface, but there are some improvements and some relief that some users should be seeing in version 29, based on changes that were made. And then in version 30, we are going to be kind of hooking up this data warehousing capability to the Torus front end in a way that that is going to make, I think to start, we're focusing mostly on authors, but I do think that all of our users across the board are going to be seeing improvements in data processing. One thing I do want to mention about this before I move on is that the work that Darren has done on data warehousing, it's not actually part of the Torus code base. And the reason that's important is that, so the front end way to like connect to this data warehouse is going to be being released as part of version 30 on April 7th. But the back end data processing capabilities have already been built. And the reason that that's important for those of you who are, extracting data, like if you're doing data shop downloads, if you want to be getting data out of Torus, is we actually can get you in kind of through like a backdoor, through a staging environment. You're going to be accessing the same data that's being that Torus production uses. It's just that you can't actually access it through the Torus front end until version 30. So you still can be working with us. If you want to make requests for data that we do for you, then you can still continue to do that if that's what you're comfortable with and that works for you. But if you want a self-serve way of accessing that data, we can kind of do a temporary hookup to get you to that in the meantime between now and version 30 is released. You can ask me about that, or you can ask Darren as well. Okay. Item 2, streamline our software development and product management management practices maximize smooth and predictable release cycles. This is not so much about, a particular front end of Torus feature, so much as thinking through some other growing pains that we've been having, that I'm sure those of you who have been around for a while have noticed, where we just are having issues with lots of bugs, hot fixes. We had a lot of hot fixes on version 28. Then we had to delay version 29, and we've had some additional hot fixes there. These are also, again, I think growing pains, and some things that we can improve and we're working to improve, but it's taking us a little bit of time. I think that 2024 was largely a year of scaling and growing in a way that I think is exciting for Torus, but I think some of that got away from us. So in my view, kind of the theme I'm trying to put forward for 2020 is 2025, the year of stability. We've had a lot of growth, and now we're making sure that that our different practices and capabilities are kind of all caught up together and all on the same page. So I think that there will be more that we'll be talking about on this, but I think that our goal is to have fewer bugs, to have fewer hot fixes, and to have a more predictable and smooth release cycle. Third on this list, targeting new features and capabilities based on research with our users and community. This is not particularly new, though I would say, as part of the growth that we were talking about in 2024, our UX designer, Jess, has been started January of last year. So she's been here just over a year, which is very exciting. And we're really kind of hitting our stride, I think, in terms of our user research. And I mean, I've been here for just over a year, so of our product management and road mapping capabilities. I think that we are really trying to make sure that what we're doing is in line with what our community and our users want and need. So if anyone who's attending this meeting, or anyone you know, hasn't been taking part in kind of active conversations about how we build certain features and taking part in our user research, talking about what your needs are and how Torus can meet those needs, then please reach out to me or reach out to Jess, and we definitely want to be hearing from you as we shape our future roadmap and we shape our features. And finally, feature parity plus and support from course migration from the OLI legacy system. This is something that's ongoing, and by parity plus, I would say we're not looking to just copy features that we had in our old OLI legacy system. We want to make sure, kind of going along with that user research I just talked about, that anything we're building are things that our users actually need, that even if we are bringing a feature over, that maybe there can be changes or adjustments to meet where we are with Torus right now and who our users are. So we're trying to make sure that folks are getting everything that all of the value that they got out of the legacy system, but we want to make sure that we preserve and move forward with that value. I think that's everything I was going to say about strategy. Does anyone have questions, comments, anything before I move on? All right, you can, I am not going to be upset if anyone interrupts me as I'm going. If you think of something, you can bring it up. I do warn you that if you put something in the chat, I usually don't see that. So maybe you can say something out loud, and I'd be happy to address any questions or comments. All right, next I'm going to look at our latest roadmap snapshot. It has some key differences from the last snapshot you saw. So I'm just going to pull it up and we can look at it, and then I'll talk through what the changes are and the reasons for some of those changes. For those of you who want to follow along, I'm now going to look at the document that connects with this QR code under roadmap. That's what I'm clicking on here. It is here under roadmap, Torus roadmap snapshot as of February 7th. All right. So again, we've got our working product vision. And I'm really mainly going to focus on this page that has kind of just a high level view of our rolling for release view of what is roadmapped for Torus, if you scroll down to these pages, I have a little bit more explanation of each of these items here. And also, if for the release we're working on now, which is currently version 30, there is a design demo. Actually, I'll show you really quick where that is before I forget. So I'm again on this OLI page. I've gone to Torus project. And if we scroll down to Torus resources, we've got the feature demos, important links. And you can see here for Torus version 30, you can click here into the design demo. And Jess has put together some great information on, there's a video and explanation of what she designed for version 30. And I do have the caveat, we always have the caveat that all designs in the demo are subject to change. Once the rubber hits the road and we're actually building it, we can't always necessarily build exactly what Jess designed, but this is your idea. You can see what the design was. And I believe that that Jess is not super far away from having our version 31 design demo. I will definitely let folks know when that is up here in the website, but it will be in this release resources table here. But anyway, coming back here, I'm going to kind of talk through this, and you can look elsewhere in the document if you want a little bit more information. So one thing that I'm going to start over on the left side of the document and kind of go chronologically here. If we're looking at version 30, then the last time we had a roadmap snapshot, we had these 3 items, but we had 2 more. We also had user preview improvements, which has now been moved to version 31, and product organization improvements, which has currently been moved to version 32. So you might want to know, why is it that we've moved 2 of our roadmap items out of version 30? And there's a couple of reasons for that. One that I think is a pretty key reason is certificates. So certificates, if this is a feature you've been following, it's already been delayed a little bit. It had previously been scheduled for an earlier release, and we had to move it to version 30. And the reason for that is this feature is kind of a monster. In fact, I think that's what I actually put in the slide. I made a little monster. It's a monster. It's a good monster. We're really happy and excited to be building this feature, but it's the kind of thing that the more we've gotten into researching it and designing it and planning how it's going to get built, it just has gotten to be fairly larger and more complicated than we initially thought. And I don't think that's a bad thing. That's just how it goes in software development sometimes. Like you kind of start off with an idea, and then as you kind of get into it, you realize that there are questions and things that aren't as straightforward as you thought. But it has kind of crowded out some other things in terms of how much development time it's taken. I think Jess has done a really amazing job of making this a pretty slim certificates implementation, not having a lot of bells and whistles. I mean, we can definitely do an improvement later, but just like the minimum viable version of certificates that is going to be useful to our users has been has been kind of a monster to build. So that is one reason. A second reason is AI trigger points, which if you look back through our monthly roadmap snapshots, you'll see this was a pretty late addition to version 30. I think that I found out about this one, I think a month or maybe even a little less than a month before we started going into working on version 30. And I don't think that's anyone's fault per se. I think that sometimes, given different things that are changing on the ground in terms of what our community members need, needs of grants that we're getting that are we need to be doing reporting on, things we need to build out so that we can build the next part in a timely manner. There's just a lot of different considerations. I did see someone in the chat would love a demo on AI trigger points. So I will be doing a demo of a version 30 release demo next month in this meeting. So I will definitely be demoing that. It hasn't been something that came up in our bi-weekly demos, Caitlin, just because it's something that Darren has been really involved in, so he hasn't been demoing it. But it's definitely something that we'll be talking about next month. It is a targeted way for course authors to put AI support for their students into their course materials. So it's a pretty exciting feature. But yeah, like just, kind of the way the cookie crumbled, we really needed it to be in version 30, and we didn't find out until kind of later in the process. And bringing something late into the process, we tried to kind of preserve everything that had been roadmapped, and that just didn't work out. And I would say the third reason that version 30 has had to shrink a bit is simply, I mean, kind of what I was referring to early. We had more bugs than we want. We've had several hot fixes, and all of that, not only does it take time for the developers to do that, it also kind of eats away at the efficiency of the team. So that's definitely something that we acknowledge we don't want to be part of. I mean, there's always going to be bugs. I'm not trying to imply that we're just going to be a perfect bug-free environment, but we can do better, and that's something we're actively engaging with now, trying to improve this practice and make sure we have, again, 2025 year of stability, #stability. I don't know if Norman is in the meeting, but if he keeps hearing me say this, he probably wants to throw something at me because he thinks I'm tempted to fake by saying that. Hopefully I'm not. Okay, so those are really that there's kind of there's multiple reasons why we've had to slim down our ambitions for version 30. And something that I really tried to do when I had to remake and rearrange the roadmap is, so I've been here for a little bit more than a year now. I've gotten my arms around things that I didn't necessarily have my arms around 6 months ago, 8 months ago. And I really am trying to make this roadmap something that under promises and over delivers. I think I'm saying that right. And I saw this as an opportunity to, like, let's just rip off the Band-Aid and make some major changes now. And hopefully that will help us move into 2025 year of stability, #stability, moving forward. So does anyone have questions about version 30 before okay. Let's talk about version 31, which I realized after I put this on the website, left over from last month's snapshot. There's an asterisk here that now is completely meaningless. It's just hanging out. You can ignore it. So one key thing to note about version 31 is, so typically we do quarterly releases. That means that each of our releases is about 3 months long. Version 31 is a 4-month release. We added a month onto it. So it is a bigger than normal release. The reason for that being, we already had, so LTI activities and scheduling improvements are already fairly large roadmap items. And so when we had to move items out of version 30, then the first thing that I told our key decision makers in our roadmap group was, we can't have these 3 things in one release. We can't have user preview improvements is big. These 2 things are big. We can't have these 3 big things in one release. It's not going to fit. So what gives? And the result of that conversation was none of them. They all need to be done for the fall 2025 semester. So the way that that we address that is, we just grew the release to be a long enough release that we can fit all of them. And we also need to have score as you go. So these are all like must-haves that we're working on for the fall semester, and we basically just sized the release so that we're confident we can do all 4 of them. So that's the reason for that. But then the consequence of that is, I have a little graphic, I think, here. So version 31 kind of grew to be like a release and a half size as per our, compared to our regular quarterly releases. Well, at that point for version 32, for our 3rd quarter release, it was going to be a mini release. I had like stolen half of it to make version 31 bigger. And that wasn't going to be very useful. So I ended up making 32 kind of a big release as well. And that means that we're actually only having these 3 releases in 2025. 31, version 30 released on April 7th. We're coming up on our code phase for that. Version 31 is going to be released shortly before most of our fall semesters start. And version 32 will be released at the end of the year before most of our spring 2026 semesters start. You'll notice there's a lot in here. That's because it is a bigger release, and we wanted to get all these priorities taken care of. And then when we get back, we get to 33, that's actually our first quarter 2026 release. And I do want to assure you that barring unforeseen circumstances, we are planning on going back to a quarterly release schedule. I think this actually works pretty well for us, that we have 2 major releases that happen right before most of our semesters start. And then we have the minor releases that happen kind of mid-semester. So we are planning on returning to that schedule after 2025. The road. Comments, concerns. I just feel like I should tell a joke to make sure you guys are still involved, like engaged, but I'm just not that funny. So because I'm not doing my feature demo, that actually is everything that I had for this time. I'm going to hang out for a bit in case anyone wants to stay, like maybe if you had a question you didn't want to ask in front of the whole group. But other than that, that's